Welcome to Turtle Bird Reviews.
Today we're going to be reviewing the movie Insomnia. Released in 2002, Insomnia is a psychological thriller directed by Christopher Nolan, and it stars Al Pacino, Robin Williams, and Hilary Swank. It follows the murder of Kay Connell, a teenage girl who lived in Nightmute, Alaska, a city where the sun doesn't set for months at a time in the summer. The film opens with two homicide detectives arriving from Los Angeles to assist in this investigation of the murder. What follows is a story of secrets, mystery, and humanity as we watch our protagonist, Will Dormer, played by Al Pacino, wrestle with the weight of his past as he walks down a road of questionable morality in his mission to apprehend the killer.
While the plot does revolve around the murder mystery that's taken place, in some ways it serves as more of a backdrop to the struggles of Will Dormer's character, in the decisions that have come back to haunt him, and in the choices that he now makes in his determination to see justice served one way or another. Because of his past decisions, there's now trouble brewing for him back in Los Angeles, and it's causing immense tension for him on this case.
Through Dormer's eyes, we get an intimate look at some of the people who live in Nightmute as he goes through these different connections to the girl who was killed. The story does a wonderful job at humanizing the town itself and also the citizens that are in the town. Once Dormer catches up with the murderer himself, things take a turn for the worse, and the film really gets interesting. I won't spoil anything here, but eventually we get to see how Dormer struggles through his convictions towards justice, and how that conflicts with his duty as a detective. It serves as a really great character study and shows us a side of law enforcement that we rarely see in cinema nowadays.
So the film begs the question of the audience: does the ends justify the means? And it asks this question in two different ways in Al Pacino and Robin Williams' characters, and how they justify their actions to each other. Robin Williams' character uses this question to try to draw a parallel between himself and Will Dormer, and this begins to eat away at the detective as he's working on this case. At the same time, providing a bit of a counterweight to Detective Dormer is the character of Ellie Burr, who's played by Hilary Swank. She's a bright, fresh-faced young local detective who looks up to Will Dormer and is eager to follow in his footsteps, but then she's slowly discovering that his methods aren't as upright as she originally thought. These two characters are looking down at the problem from two different places on the spectrum. It's the problem of how important are integrity and ethics when the alternative is guilty criminals walking free.
As the title of the movie suggests, Dormer suffers from insomnia due to a tragic event that happens while he's on the case. And this is only worsened by the perpetual sunlight of the Alaskan summer. He starts to unravel and question his choices that he's made, his motivations, and what he's lost in himself along the way. At the same time, he's still feverishly working to bring this murderer to justice as well. But it seems like his opponent is always one step ahead of him.
The characters have to come to their own conclusions, but Nolan was careful not to feed an answer to the audience. The story does pose a tough question, and it sticks in your mind long after the film is over. Sometimes it does seem like the ends justifies the means, even if the means are questionable. But these actions do fall outside of the law, even outside of ethics, even if the result that they achieve in the end is better than the horrifying alternative. Insomnia invites you to decide for yourself which outcome is for the greater good.
The characters of Insomnia really set it apart from other crime dramas. The twists and turns of the plot are well done, but it doesn't really mean much unless we know what the characters are going through and that struggle. Thankfully, this movie does understand where its strengths are and focuses on this part a lot. As I've already stated, Dormer is very engaging as the protagonist, and the conflicts that we see him in are only enhanced by his interactions with the other characters. Ellie's honest naivete and innocence contrast with Dormer's experience and checkered past quite nicely. Very, very minor spoiler here, but Robin Williams' character is fantastic as the killer. He's convincingly disturbing while also appearing ordinary and unremarkable. After all, it still is Robin Williams that we're watching on screen, and he still carries that aura of charm and warmth that in this case is a little bit unsettling. It makes his actions and his reasoning behind them all the more terrifying and effective. Needless to say, the characters in this film are very satisfying and intriguing to watch, and it's one of the best parts of the movie.
The acting is fantastic. Al Pacino is perfect as Detective Dormer. He has an air of experience about him as if he's seen everything that his profession has to offer and then some. It does a lot of good for his character. Hilary Swank is amazing as Ellie Burr, a young detective from this Alaskan town. Martin Donovan, who recently appeared in Tenet, does a great job here as well. but the real standout performance is Robin Williams. Here we get to see him as the villain, which obviously isn't the norm for him. He gives a striking performance as someone who believes that they're thoroughly justified in their horrific actions. I would highly recommend that fans of Robin Williams check out this film just to see his range as an actor. It's definitely something to behold.
The writing in Insomnia is pretty great, and it's done by Hilary Seitz. Characters are consistent, the plot makes sense, and the themes are beautifully intertwined in the story. The only potential problem for some viewers is going to be that it feels slow at times, especially in the beginning before things really get going when Dormer catches up more with the murderer. Even this slow feeling might be intentional at parts. Nolan is definitely trying to give us a sense of anxiousness and being trapped in Alaska just as Dormer is. While these scenes are effective at establishing the mood, they might seem dreary or drag on for some people.
One thing is that Insomnia is not the sort of film that you watch if you're trying to see Nolan's skill at creating visual spectacle. It has none of the thrill of Inception's zero-gravity fight scenes or the originality of Tenet's inverted car chase scenes. This is a more traditional film for him. This could be due to the fact that this is the only film Nolan hasn't written the screenplay for that he's also directed. Even so, the visuals are great in Insomnia, and it fits the story beautifully. It's set in this kind of formidable Alaskan environment. The blinding midnight sun affects us in much the same way as it affects Dormer, our main character. It's bothersome and almost haunting at times. A close-up shot of blood seeping through clothes gives us that same sense of permanence and corruption that we watch unfold on screen. There's plenty of metaphorical imagery as well as effective atmosphere overall. The muted color palette gives kind of a chilly, bleak feeling. While it's nowhere near as flashy as some of his other work, Insomnia shows us some great skill behind the camera from Nolan.
So the score, composed by David Julian, is very dark and heavy. It's not exactly grandiose, but that keeps it from overshadowing the grim tone of the film. It builds the weight and the gravity through each scene pretty effectively. Insomnia is a bit of a hidden masterpiece to me. Most people that we've met have either never seen it or heard of it, or they know about it, but they only know of it as one of Nolan's earlier films, and not on its own merits. Its characters are masterfully crafted, and its story is both unpredictable and gratifying. It shows us a side of humanity that we don't always get to see in this light. Its messages about morality and justice are compelling, and its portrayal of an obscured evil is pretty powerful. And even with its slow start for some, it's a fantastic movie, and we highly recommend it. As far as ratings go, I would give it probably an A+ or an A.
I would say an A. It's a solid A film.
Yeah.
That's it from us today, guys. Be sure to like and subscribe.
And stay tuned for more reviews coming from us very soon. We have plans to do more books, movies, and video games. Thanks for watching. Adios.